A play fake. Young goes deep middle. He's got Jerry Rice. Touchdown 49ers!
Welcome to another edition of the 49ers Family Podcast with three generations of 49ers fans breaking down the game each week, previewing the game, hearing from Grandpa Mike as he's been a fan since 1949 when he attended his first 49er game at Kezar Stadium when he was just 7 years old. My name is Josh. I'm here with my dad, Jared, and Grandpa Mike, and we are the 49ers family. Come join our family. Listen along as we get started. Mike, Grandpa, how's it going?
It's going good, Josh. It's Wednesday. We have a couple more days before we kick off the season. So I'm very excited, but I also get very nervous, and I don't like that. So I always feels like I own the team or have $1 million bet on the game. It's neither one. But I just want to get off to a good start, and I probably overanalyze everything, but that's who I am. And, I've done this for 73 years. I've been rooting for the 49ers, and here we go with season 2022. And I think it's going to be a really good one. We're loaded. So
yeah. And I see you're wearing a jersey. What jersey are you wearing today?
This is Fred Warner from BYU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
The throwback.
It's a throwback. My favorites.
Great. Dad, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for some football. Looking forward to Sunday and kick off, see Trey Lance versus Justin Fields, and it's going to be a great game. So I'm excited to talk about it. And I'm ready to talk 49er football.
Let's do it. I failed. If you listen to our last episode of our podcast, the first edition or first episode, I failed to introduce myself, so I thought I'd do that really quick. My name is Josh. I am the host, facilitator with these two gentlemen here. I've been a 49er fan my whole entire life. Get that from Grandpa Mike here. I remember from really since I was 3-4 years old, I had 49ers decor in my room. I remember having like one of those classic 1993 trash cans, that like aluminum trash can that was 49ers. And I remember having the classic sheet set like on my twin bed that had all the logos from all the teams, and I was always finding the 49ers logo. Been a fan forever and grew up watching this guy. I have my Steve Young jersey on. Once again, from BYU. I did go to BYU. I love that BYU 49er connection with not only Steve Young, but even Ty Detmer played for the Niners. Tom Homo played for the Niners. Fred Warner, of course, as of late. So love the Niners and love cheering them on and getting to do this with my dad and grandpa. So
yeah, that sheet set, I paid for that, buddy.
I know. Yeah.
That. I picked that out. I said, we're going to NFL. We decked out your room in complete NFL wallpaper, the pillowcases, sheets, the whole deal. So
any helmets. Yeah.
Had it all. I know. And the sad part is that I want it all back. I was actually just on eBay yesterday looking up that sheet set. And it's out there, and they're probably not in the best condition because they're now 30 years old. But the people are still selling those 1993 sheet sets, and that would be fun to get. I have two young boys. They're tiny right now. They're only 2 years old and 6 months. But some good times, good memories with the classics. So
right on. Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody listening today. Today we are going to talk about the season, kind of preview the season, talk about the schedule, what our predictions are for the season, win-loss totals, what are some key games that we have circled on our calendar that you should have too. And then we'll break down, as I mentioned, break down the Bears game, the Bears offense, defense, some kind of opportunities there, weaknesses, as well as, talk about the Niners, the health of the Niners. Today it came out that George Kittle is nursing a groin injury day to day. So we'll talk about the Niners and what to expect there, and then give our game predictions. This is fun. We're actually getting into the season. I can't believe it's here. So but let's dive right in. So talking about the schedule, obviously we already mentioned that we're starting out with the Bears this week. And then from the Bears, we go back home, face Seattle at home, go at Denver to face the Broncos, back home to face the Rams, go on the road for 2 weeks to Carolina and then to Atlanta, then come back home to face the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then go to LA, or South San Francisco, as some people call, and face the Rams. I'll stop there. Grandpa, Dad, what do you think about the first half of the schedule? What are those games that are intriguing to you?
Well, the first half is going to be difficult in a couple of ways. So we now play 17 games, but I cut it off at 8 the first half. 5 of the 8 are on the road, and that'll be difficult. We also play the Rams twice in the first half.
Yeah.
That'll be difficult.
Very interesting. I was surprised to see that when the schedule came out.
Yeah. So, that I want to get off to a good start. I mean, I want this every year, but I think it's imperative we do, because when you look at last year, we started 3-5 and we were swimming uphill the whole year, or so it felt. I mean,
yep.
we didn't qualify for the playoffs until the last game of the season in overtime.
Right, the last second.
Beat the Rams in LA in overtime. We would not have been in the playoffs and had, this marvelous run of beating Dallas and Green Bay and leading the Rams by 10 points in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, it just was a blink. So I want to get off to a good start. I know the team does too. And I think back to 2019 when we went 8-0, and that's way too much to ask here, but we went 8-0 and we just coasted, and we went 13-3 and number 1 seed, played at home, went to the Super Bowl. And that's my picture of 2022. Get off to a good start is really imperative, although it will be difficult. The second half of the season, it's the opposite. We have a lot of home games.
Yep.
And, most of our road work is done.
Right.
One final comment on the schedule, and it goes back to last year. Last year we played 20 games. Okay, I don't think we've ever played 20 games, but the thing was 8 were at home, 12 were on the road. No team in the history of the NFL has played 12 games on the road in 1 year. We did that last year. So anyway, that's a little bit of my thoughts on the first half of the schedule.
Dad, what do you think are some of the games that we're most at risk of losing? Grandpa mentioned the Rams. What other games, even in the second half of the schedule, we're facing the Chargers. We faced the Cardinals twice on the second half of the schedule, New Orleans, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Seahawks once again at Seattle this time, at home versus Washington, and then an interesting New Year's Day game at Vegas at the Las Vegas Raiders. What do you think? What are some of the games that worry you?
That worry me. I obviously Rams in the first half of the season. Grandpa just talked about that. That worries me a little bit. Just going against Stafford. Right before our bye week in week 9, we're at the Rams, so that's going to be a big game. We got to get past Kansas City and the Mahomes. Looks like week 7. I look at that, and then I'm looking at the Chargers again in November. Playing the Chargers and Tampa Bay. Those are kind of the big games I see. There's probably more out there, but I always look at the high-powered offenses, the good quarterbacks. We got to play Russell Wilson in a couple weeks. Looks like September 25th with Denver, so that'll be an interesting matchup too. But I think if we get through this first half with maybe a couple losses, 2 or 3 at the most, I think we're going to have a great season.
Yeah. I think, one, I think it's really interesting. Not only is it we have an odd number of games now with 17 regular season games. So you're either going to have one more road game or one more home game. What's intriguing is that we already have one more home game. And then the Cardinals game that should be away at the Cardinals is actually going to be in Mexico City on November 21st. Super cool. I love that we're going there. And I've been to Mexico before, and they love the Niners, Los Niners. And they have, that kind of secondhand market Niners stuff that they put on backpacks and everything. And I think that place is going to be packed and almost feel like a home game away from home, kind of one of those college neutral site games, but the crowd favors, a certain team. So I think that's going to be interesting and in our favor. Talking about that first half, though, going against the Broncos, the Rams twice, and Patrick Mahomes, and this might be a hot take here, or maybe this is me with low expectations, especially with Trey Lance kind of starting and the O-line, a lot of things that we talked about last week. I think the front half is going to be rough, and if we can make it out with a 4-4 record in the front half, 4-4 in the first 8, while that might hurt, I think that might set us up for success in that second half and be more prepared against the Buccaneers and some of these good teams on the second half of the schedule and create some good momentum riding into the playoffs. That's kind of, once again, maybe that's me hedging my bet a little bit, expecting the worst. Not that it's the worst. I still think overall, and I want to get your take on this too, that we are going to go 10-7 right now. The sports books have us at 9.5 wins is kind of the over under. I'm still going to take the over. I still think we get to 10 wins. And even as I was looking at the schedule, my heart wanted to pull for 11 wins, but realistically with Trey Lance learning, growing, this kind of his first true season as a starting quarterback, I'm predicting that we get to 10-7, and that's still good enough to get into the playoffs.
Well, my thought is right away, I mean, the teams that have the best, defenses, we're going to have probably the toughest time. Our strength is our defense. Our weakness is our offensive line. We talked a little bit about that. We have great, power position players, that can catch the ball and whatnot. Trey is going to be, just how calm he can stay in the pocket. So the weaker defenses, we're going to do well. We're going to be able to hold teams as far as scoring with our defense fairly well until we hit like a Mahomes and maybe a Stafford, I guess, with their high-powered offenses. But I think it's the strongest defensive lines. Those are going to be our toughest games. And I'm not sure what teams those are, but that's kind of how I would kind of look at it.
So just speaking about defense for a minute, last year, the 49ers defense was ranked number 7. And we were second against the run, but 15th against the pass. And that's where I see our improvement with Mooney Ward and Mosley, and when Jimmy Ward gets back too. But so our pass defense is going to be much better. And part of that is because of the pass rush. So we're going to have a very highly ranked defense. We should be in the top 5. I'm hoping for maybe in the top 2. And that'll dictate a lot. And that'll, also help the offense. Defense was very good last year, ranked 7. We're better now.
Oh, we're one of the top defenses in the league by all accounts. Every analyst says that's our biggest strength for sure is defense. It's just that we need to stop other defenses from stopping our offense. It's going to be Young at quarterback, and that's going to be our challenge, is that front line.
I think a key part of the defense, I completely agree with both of what you just said, are going to be takeaways. Last year we had a down year as far as takeaways go, and while we still had a good defense, from a statistics standpoint of keeping us in games, etc., where we were lacking was turnovers, and forcing turnovers, whether it be fumbles or interceptions. with the secondary being better, I do expect that number to go up and the average turnovers per game. But I think that I agree with you both is will be a huge part of success in 2022.
Good point, Josh. The turnovers is another area. Last year in 20 games, we had 9 interceptions.
Yep.
Our leading interceptor was Jimmy Ward with 2. It's just going to be a whole bunch better. And and that's how you win games. You win the turnover battle, you win the games. So
yep.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, well, we got Dad's thoughts. Dad, what was your season win-loss projection real quick?
It was 11-6.
11-6. Grandpa, what did you have, and what were your thoughts about the schedule?
I also come in at 11-6. I think we'll split with the Rams. I think Denver's going to be a tough game. We just can't get rid of Russell Wilson.
I know.
It has been a pain for forever. Our record against Seattle is atrocious. So I think Denver will be a tough game. That's game number 3. And then we'll split with the Rams. I think we'll split with Arizona.
Agreed.
And Tampa is going to be a tough game, and the Charger game is going to be tough. So, but overall, I all this talk about Trey Lance kind of drives me nuts, but the poor guy, I mean, is really under the spotlight. In fact, the 49er Ram game is the game of the week. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's going to go to the whole nation this week. And it's because of Trey Lance. People want to see Trey Lance. So I think he'll, get better as the season goes on. And at first it might be a little rough, but I'd love this guy to just tear it up and shut everybody up, really. Too many critics. And
too many critics. And you gotta, I agree with you. You gotta feel for the guy. He hasn't even done anything yet. Like Trevor Lawrence started almost, if not all, the games last season. Zach Wilson got a good body of work besides his knee injury. Justin Fields got plenty of play time, as did Mac Jones the whole entire year. But this poor guy, has barely played, started 2 games last year, is just getting completely ran over by the media. And I will say there are some media correspondents that are really high on him and even have predicted him to be the MVP. But it does feel that way, that it's either you're super hot on or high on him, or you're throwing this guy under the bus. I just want to give him a chance to let the ball fly, see what happens with the scheme and everything. Get the ball to the playmakers. I mean, the poor guy hasn't even had the chance to show what he's got.
Yeah. So I am really, really, really pulling for him. I want him to come out of the gate on fire and just shut these experts up.
Yeah, Shanahan will scheme real well for him. I don't think they're going to lean on him too much. We're going to run the ball, and probably some, just some simple out to the flats, get the ball in Debo's hands. They're not going to lean on him too much, and yeah, we shouldn't have to too much against the Bears anyway, but they'll let it rip a little bit too. So I think it's the ideal. If you could pick a team in the NFL that we're going to start out against, it's the Bears. Yeah. I mean, they're one of the weakest teams against the pass in the NFL. Their defense, they lost Khalil Mack. They don't have a whole lot. They got a good linebacker. I think they got one real good defensive lineman. I forget his name. Robert Quinn. Quinn, yeah, he's a big sack guy, so he'll put some pressure on him. But it's going to be a great start for Trey Lance. I really feel really good about it. Just got to stay healthy and just get the ball rolling. But it is the ideal setup for us.
I agree. So let's close out that real quick. So as far as the season goes, I predict that we'll go 10-7. Grandpa and Dad predict that we'll go 11-6. Overall, great outlook on the season. I think a lot of the experts are also expecting good things for the Niners. As far as the NFC West odds go, the Rams are still the odds-on favorite to win the NFC West, but not by much. I will say that. So the Niners are right there on their heels, and I agree that it'll come down to winning the games you're supposed to win, which are really beating Seattle both times, and then at the worst, splitting with Arizona and splitting with the Rams. If the Niners can do that, they should be in a good position to take the NFC West and avoid having to go to the wild card game, even though wild card is a whole different thing these days. But all in all, great season. We'll be on prime time five different times, which I believe was tied for the most, which is very fun. The Niners always play well on prime time, always have been. Grandpa Wright, the most Monday Night Football wins in NFL history. So it's a super exciting season.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on the season in general?
As I kind of just scout, what's being talked about in the NFL, the Niners are nobody wants to play him. Trey Lance is the unknown, and everybody fears our defense. And we held on to Debo. We got Ayuk. We got some great weapons. We got Elijah Mitchell. So I mean, if we just got to plug in that quarterback, and he's got to manage the game well and make some key passes. And I mean, we're going to be contenders,
For sure.
What's interesting this Sunday. So I look at, who we're going to play and how Shanahan would form his game plan. And you look at the opponent and see where the weaknesses are. The Bear pass defense last year was ranked 30th. And they're going to start 2 rookies. And so it tells me we're going to pass. But then the other side of it is to take, the heat off Trey Lance, and we're really a running team. We're going to run. So I'm sure it'll be balanced, but one hand, I think we're going to run, and then I look at the stats and it says we're going to pass. So we'll see. It'll be exciting.
It'll be exciting. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So Bears week, I agree with both what you just have already said. It does feel like a great first game, especially for a young quarterback. No knock on the Bears, but the Bears are kind of in rebuilding mode, drafting a young quarterback themselves. They have young pieces around the team, and a lot of them are unproven. They also have a brand new coaching staff. And what does that mean? Usually that means that they want to bring in their own players and build their own team, just like when Kyle Shanahan brought and John Lynch, came in, assessed the situation. And then, as Grandpa alluded to last week, I think you said 3 players are left from the squad. Two players are left from that squad that they inherited. So if this is not the Bears team of the 80s, but still NFL does a great job of having parity, and with the line right now being 6.5 points, I also follow college football, and a 6.5 point line in college football is relatively close. It's a 1-score game. Almost every line in NFL is usually around a 1-score game, if not less. But I was actually surprised to see that the Niners were only favored by 6.5. What do you guys think?
I agree. I thought we'd be favored by more, because there's every indication that Chicago has regressed. They were a 6-win team last year, and they've lost Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson, Eddie Goldman, and others. They're not as good as they were a year ago, and they only won 6 games.
Right.
So, their coaching staff has got a reputation. They brought these guys from Indy, the head coach and the DC, and Indy plays hard. So I expect the Bears to play hard, but they don't have the horses. They just don't have the players. So I'm hoping that this is not a nail biter and we win easy.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears, I was looking at some reports. Grandpa, I think you put one of those reports out to send it out to us, but the Bears have 25 new players this season. I mean, that's half their team, so they're going to be kind of raw and a little unknown, but they're gonna they're going to be all right. Like I said, I just think it's a great way to start our season. I think we're going to win by what I pick 24-14. So at least 10 points, or 10 to 14 points. So I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I thought were interesting and kind of, talking about weaknesses as it pertains to the Bears. Last year, they allowed a league high 58 sacks. As we know, our defensive line is extremely talented, probably the best in the league. And there's been jokes going around that Justin Fields, he was just at the Ohio State game this last weekend. And there was a tweet going around that saying that the security guards that were around him was the most protection he's going to have all year.
Yeah, that's true.
He is going to be running for his life, frankly. And even he, in media availability today or yesterday, got asked about Nick Bosa, and he plain old said that he doesn't expect a good day from his left tackle. And I was like, ouch. But I don't think any quarterback realistically expects a good day from their left tackle when they're facing Nick Bosa. But I think that is really gonna stunt their whole entire offense. I have the Niners winning, I believe, 24-10. I believe. I'm trying to find my prediction here, but somewhere around there, 24-10 is my prediction, because I do think that the Niners are gonna hold them to almost nothing, and they might get one big play here or there, and they end up with 10 points. Who knows? But I think the Niners are going to really take hold of this game, and it's going to be led by the defense, and then the offense is going to find ways with the run, with the playmakers that we have, to put some points on the board, but nothing crazy. I think that it's going to be a relatively low scoring game. 24-10 is my prediction.
Yeah, let's just not turn over the ball, and let's get a few from the other side. And yeah, it's going to be.
Grandpa, what do you think? I saw that your prediction. You think that we're going to score a little bit more, huh?
I do. Again, the Bear defense is just a shell of what it was a couple of years ago. They used to be really good defensively, and boy, has that changed, especially against the pass. They're going to start 2 rookie corners. There are 2 top draft picks. I have no idea how they'll play, but it's, nobody walks onto that field in the NFL and just takes it over. And your name's Bo Jackson. So I'm anticipating, and I really hope this happens, is Trey airs it out 2, 3, 4 times, and throws some bombs to Gray or whoever. And we're going to air it out. We're going to really test these guys. So we just can't turn the ball over.
Agreed.
That's the key.
Yeah, I hope Trey has some time to throw those deep balls. I would not be surprised, and Shanahan likes to do this, especially with the more mobile quarterback, is get him out and get him rolling out, make the field smaller. He has less reads and kind of simplify the game for him. Not that my experience is anything like Trey's, but even playing a little quarterback myself in our adult flag football league, I love rolling out because I have less options, less things to consider, and it seems like the game slows down a little bit. And once again, you can use your legs too, and he has that ability. Obviously, we want to keep him healthy, and that be the very last resort. But if there are no reads and everything, and he can pick up 3-4 yards just on a QB keeper and run out to the sideline, great. Let's keep it simple. Let's get the ball to our playmakers once again.
Yeah, I think that's great. He will be mobile. He's got legs and he's got a strong arm. So that is his asset. Roquan Smith, their linebacker, I guess the Bears linebacker, it's one of their stud players.
Yeah.
He's really good at tracking quarterbacks. He's chased down a lot of mobile quarterbacks last year. So he'll be spying on Trey, but that's okay. We'll throw, we'll roll right and throw left. So, but yeah, it'll be fun.
So let's talk a little bit. We've been talking about the Bears. Let's talk a little bit about now the Niners, who we have going to this game. We mentioned last week that we are starting the year off with a couple people on the IR. Jason Verrett still on the PUP, physically unable to perform list. And as I teased in kind of the introduction of this episode, George Kittle nursing a groin injury that is day to day. We'll see if he's ready for Sunday. As far as injuries go, what are your thoughts, Grandpa? It feels like we always seem to get dinged up.
Yeah. I think, I don't know how bad Kittle is. He just watched from the sidelines today, and it didn't sound bad, but it's, the groin is, you pull that and you're out for months. So I think they'll sit him, and we can win without him, is the thinking. But we have, the Niners are loaded. Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, the running game. The only question mark is the offensive line, and they're going to have to just go out and prove it. I don't know that Sunday will be a real big test, but we have 3 new starters on the offensive line, as does Tom Brady. Tom Brady has 3 new in the same positions. The center and the 2 guards in Tampa are brand new. It's a lot to ask for 3 guys to come in and perform spectacularly without missing a beat. So we'll see how that goes. But we're loaded. We can run, we can pass, we can play defense. Special teams is another area that should not be overlooked. Last year, we've finished 26th in special teams. It was a disaster, other than the blocked punt in Green Bay that won the game by Willis. Mm-hmm. So we fired the coach, and it's interesting. Our special team coach last year is the Bears special team coach this year, Richard Underwood, and we went and stole Brian Schneider from Seattle. He was in Seattle for 10 years as the special team coach, and Seattle won a lot of games in the last 10 years, and their special teams was part of it. So there's another area that I think we're really going to improve: the turnovers and the special teams. And it's big. Field position, is a big difference maker. So
we're definitely a better team, like defensively, like we've strengthened the secondary, special teams, these other important areas. And then getting back to the injuries, Grandpa, you brought up some stats. The 49ers in 2021 last year were the 3rd most injured team in the league. That's huge. And in 2020, we were the most injured team in the league. That's huge. The Rams, meanwhile, last year were the 5th least injured, and in 2020 were the 2nd least injured. So, if we were healthy, we've gone to 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl recently, and just come up a little short in some key games. And who knows, injuries could have changed everything for us. So we definitely have to stay healthy.
We do. And when you look at, I just compared our injuries to the Rams as they've ascended and won a world championship, and they've just been blessed. They've had the least injured team in 2017. They were 4th least injured in 2018, 10th least injured, 2nd least injured. And last year, when they won the Super Bowl, they were the 5th least injured. We are the most injured. They're the least injured. So here we start this year, and Matthew Stafford has a bad elbow that they're hiding. So we'll see tomorrow night. This could be a problem for them.
Mm-hmm. I know.
You'll be whipping that ball around. I know. I'm sure they've been nursing him, but he'll be fine.
I don't know. I also agree with Grandpa. I think they're hiding it. I've heard mentions that Tommy John surgery has been discussed, but he obviously doesn't want to do that. And we shall see. But they're even, that got brought up as part of the whole Jimmy G speculation. Are the Bears waiting for him to get released to make a move on him because they're in a situation where they can win now? They're also obviously returning Super Bowl champs, but they're a roster built to win right now. So something to watch.
For sure. It's gonna
Other potential kind of injuries this week. Elijah Mitchell was nursing an injury and is listed as questionable today. His status changed to healthy, so he should be good to go. Otherwise, it's really, as we just mentioned, the goal is to win and stay healthy. We all remember the disaster that was the 2020 season. Let's not do that again. One thing that I found interesting, and I found this on the internet, and I just thought it was so intriguing. So the new Bears coach actually asked the stadium grounds people to change the grass, the actual turf. And they used, and I don't have it up in front of me, but they used a certain type of grass, and he asked them to rip that out and replace it with a different type of grass that was more of a hybrid grass. And he said it was better for players, performance and potentially injuries. So I hope that's the case. I am a believer, call it a conspiracy theory, but I don't think it is. I think it's really in the science that the turf that's been installed around the league is not great for NFL performance. And especially you see all these ACL injuries these days, a lot of it has to deal with the turf and playing on the turf. There's a lot of players that hate the turf and want to get rid of it. I don't think they'll ever win that battle, but yeah, get through the game, win the game. I'm definitely taking the over, we just got to stay healthy.
So the Bears this week also announced that they're going to build a new stadium.
Yes,
man, that's right. Arlington Heights, where the racetrack was. I was there once. It was all white, and so it's going to be a dome stadium. And what will be interesting, at least for the NFC North, is 3 teams: Detroit Dome, Minnesota Dome, Chicago Dome, Green Bay Lambeau Field. I mean, wow, night and day. So anyway, that's a few years down the road, but the Bears are going to build a new stadium.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking at their plans. It's like a 400-acre site, and really are going to revamp the whole entire thing. But it's way out there in the suburbs. It's even if I remember correctly, it's northwest of O'Hare. It's way out there.
I mean, it depends on where you come from, I guess. So working for United Airlines, we were in Elk Grove Village, and right next door is Mount Prospect and Arlington Heights and all those places, those little towns, as I call them. So it's near O'Hare. It's not that far from the airport.
Yeah, it's near O'Hare, which honestly, when we're Niners fans, and they obviously moved it from the stick on the bay down to Santa Clara. It has a similar vibe as that of moving it into the suburbs a little bit. That's where they can get more land, create more of a complex, which is kind of the new thing as far as business development goes. But yeah, Soldier Field Field is an epic venue. It's been there forever. A lot of memories. Once again, go back to those 85 Bears, 84 Bears. I think it was 84 Bears. Super historic.
Yeah. And it's named after the soldiers, once upon a time. So it's real old. I've been there, and it's hard to build a new stadium. We won't get into that. That's another story for another day. But Chicago's going to build a new stadium. So anyway, that's that.
Very cool. All right. Well, final predictions for the Niner game. I said 24-10. Dad, you said 21-10?
No, 24-14.
24-14. Grandpa, what's your final score? I forget if you
I forget. Here it is. I'm 34-13.
34-13.
I changed it. I started out, it was like 24-17, And then the more I read and researched and everything, I just go, we've got to score a lot of points. These guys are terrible.
Yeah.
So that's, a little grandiose probably, but my score is 34-13.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, hey, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm counting on a modest day from the offense, but if we can get some defensive touchdowns at pick six or a scoop and score, which I think are very possible in these games, that score can go up there to 34 points for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great if our defense, can put one score up a game at least. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Last thing that I did want to mention, because I think it's a huge storyline for this game, and I don't think it's going to play out in favor. But the whole Justin Fields storyline of course, the Niners passed on him. There were a lot of people thinking that the Niners would take Justin Fields at number 3 in the 2020 draft, but they didn't. They took Trey Lance, and even one of Justin Fields' teammates, I forget which one, said that Justin Fields took it personally, and that this is a little bit of a revenge game for him, and he wants to show them that the Niners were wrong in drafting Trey Lance over him. So some extra motivation for him, but unfortunately it's not the same motivation for the O-line.
Yeah, you got to have the horses, and they just don't have them right now.
Yeah, so should be interesting for sure. The game on Sunday, as Grandpa mentioned, it will be on Fox. Is the game of the week. Kicks off at 10 a.m. Pacific. Should be a good game. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Here we go.
I'm ready. Yeah. Let's go Niners.
Go Niners. So as we mentioned in our first podcast, we do love to share stories. Grandpa Mike has a plethora of them. And this being obviously an away game, first away game of the season, Grandpa Mike has had the great privilege of traveling actually with the 49ers on the team plane multiple times to away games while he worked for United Airlines. So the Grandpa thought you could share a little bit about kind of the coordination of kind of the exactness of the travel, how that goes down, how you were involved, and kind of what were some of the observations that you made in the times that you were on the team plane.
Well, I consider myself to be very, very lucky and fortunate. And it was during the glory years of the 49ers in the 80s and 90s. As we mentioned earlier, I worked for United Airlines for 37 years. And teams each year get bids from the airlines to do their charter, their flights to their away games. And United many, many years carried the 49ers. So senior management knew I was a 49er fan. Everybody knew I was a 49er fan. And so I was asked, would I like to go and travel with the team? Would I like to? Yes. And it would be, one of the great thrills of my life. And so we did that. I did that many times. And the company needed a representative on the airplane in case something went wrong. So it's just the team, and they needed somebody from United to be a spokesman. And so my job was really very easy. And when we left San Francisco, I really had nothing to do because there's the ground crew and everything, but I would go down and check with them. But at destination, when we flew home, I had my only little assignment, and that was to go down onto the ramp, onto the tarmac, and talk to the mechanics and make sure that the airplane was going to be on time. And if there was something wrong, I was to report it to Bill Walsh. So it was kind of funny, and I'll get into more details in a second, but I got to know Bill Walsh, and he's a wonderful man, wonderful. Just, after the second time, he's calling me by name. Hey, Mike, how you doing? That's Bill Walsh. He knows who I am. So my job was to then coordinate with him. He was the team spokesperson. And so I would tell him if the flight was going to be late or not. And then I'd ask him, do you want me to make an announcement on the PA to the team who's sitting on the airplane? And he'd always say, no, don't tell him anything. Okay, so let me just walk through what the experience was like. And I mean, it was, again, one of the thrills of my life. I was living with my heroes. So departure was just like a normal flight. The players would walk through the airport. They'd be told, go to gate 88 or whatever the number was, and they just walk on the airplane. There was no check-in. So little by little, the players are just walking in, and I would recognize really all of them over time. And and then the players sat in coach. The assistant coaches and me sat in business class, and Bill Walsh and Eddie DeBartolo and the ownership sat in first class. So let's see what else. And I would actually spend the entire weekend with the team. It's as if I was a player on the team, except for the game. So we'd fly to destination. There'd be 4 or 5 buses would pull up plainside. It was really slick. And the police would be there. We'd have a police escort to the hotel. And then the players would just, when the check-in was, again, so easy. There was a table in the middle of the lobby with envelopes and their names on them. They just go to the table and get their envelope. It was the key to their room. And so I would spend, there's a rule in the NFL that the visiting team needs to be in the city where the game's to be played 24 hours in advance. So we'd fly on Friday for Sunday and Saturday for Monday. I was there as an example, the last game Steve Young played, a Monday nighter in Arizona, and he got a concussion. And so I would sit in the stands during the game. That's the only part of the weekend I was not with the team. I was, watching the game from the stands. And then I had a credential that went back into the locker room. And so I thought, I'm going to go stand next to Steve Young and just see how he's talking, because he's got this concussion and he was held out. And it's when he was engaged to be married. He was talking to this blonde, and so I walked over and just stood next to him and kind of eavesdropped, and he was fine. Not that I'm a doctor, but I flew home with the team going, he's fine. He'll play next week. He never played again. Some of the other things that were just fun. I mean, Ken Norton Jr. always wore this big cowboy hat. T.O., who was, a mouth and just a very outspoken guy, always was quiet as can be on the flights, never said a word. Just total opposite, It was fun to be flying in business class when Joe Montana and Jerry Rice are in coach. And the other thing that always kind of I thought was neat to know is the departure time on the flight home is set by the final gun. So if the game ends at 4:03 p.m., the final gun goes off, the departure time is 6:03. It's 2 hours after the final gun. In 1 hour after the final gun, the buses leave for the airport. So players have 1 hour in the locker room to shower, get ready, do some interviews, get on the bus. Buses leave 1 hour after the final gun. Flight leaves 2 hours after the final gun. So I got to do that a number of times. It was an incredible thrill. I mean, to be up close and personal with my heroes. And I was in awe. And, you'd look at Joe Montana and go, my goodness, this guy's got everything. And he was just a cool guy. He was always laughing. They were goofing off with Dwight Clark. And
so cool.
And so wonderful memories. One other final note is when airlines bid for this charter work with the NFL, and they do it with every team. The size of the airplane drives the price. Okay, so we would come in with bids for narrow body airplanes. Narrow bodied airplanes have one aisle, wide bodies have two aisles. Eddie DeBartolo wanted wide bodies, and he just took care of his players. He loved his players. And so he would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars extra throughout a year to charter wide bodies. And so then a player, instead of just having a seat, he'd have a row. And after takeoff, he could put the arms up and, you know, he had a whole row. So Eddie took care of his players, and I got to see some of that. And it's an experience. I feel very blessed. You know, not many people can say that. And my United people took care of me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool experience.
Yeah.
So jealous. And thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think all of our listeners are totally envious right now.
Sure.
Cool to see kind of that behind the scenes of how they travel to the games and kind of what that experience is like and some of those logistics, and obviously get to experience all of it. Very, very cool. Thanks for sharing. Riding
on the buses was after the game. So not from the airport to the hotel. There was not a lot of hoopla there. But after the game, there's thousands of fans that are just right next to the bus. And they're, you know, you think you're a rock star. I mean, you're looking out at they're going crazy, and the bus would pull away and go slow, and then he'd speed up and eventually take off. But, you know, thousands of fans or groupies just all over the buses.
How fun. Those are great memories. That's so cool. I love it.
All right.
Really were.
Well, that's going to do it for another episode of 49ers Family. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, questions, or want us to break something down, or you know, anything, please email us at 49ersfamilypodcast@gmail.com. 49ers spelled 49ERS familypodcast@gmail.com. Appreciate you listening to us and being part of our 49ers family. Until next time, go Niners.
Go Niners.
Woo! Let's go Niners.